I'm here with the Matthew Jensen, the cinematographer for Barron's Cove. I guess I'll start off with, so I don't get a chance to talk with cinematographers much, and I'll bring up like Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford. Is like, I just think that looks good, but I'm not a
Yeah,
cinematographer. What's something that you look for in a movie that someone like me might miss out on?
I think the major thing, is how the visuals tell the story and how the visuals make you feel and give the film mood and atmosphere. Those are the things that I look for in general. If I'm really swept up and taken to a place or there's a strong sense of feeling, generally I find that it's because of the imagery and that where cinematography begins and ends and where direction begins and ends is sometimes murky. There's an overlap there. But I think that the best films, the most effective films, know how to use camera and lighting to convey a mood, but also to reveal information and to take the viewer on a very unique journey.
So, what were some of the things that you thought of? First of all, when you got hired onto Barron's Cove, how does that work? And then once you get hired on, what's some of the things that you do to prepare for what cameras you're going to use or lenses or how you're going to approach the movie just in general?
I This was a much smaller movie than I'm generally used to doing, but my agents had found the script and said, "Hey, look, you might want to take a look at this." The script was on the blacklist, so it was recognized as being a very well written script that had not been produced yet, and it's a young filmmaker that the producers are really high on, and maybe just give it a read. So I did, and I really liked the script. And I said, sure, I'd love to meet with Evan, the director. And Evan and I had a really nice conversation. And he presented me with a lot of his ideas about how the film, what he wanted it to look and feel. And a lot of it, what he brought up was stuff that I'm very familiar with. And he brought up a lot of references of some of my favorite movies. And I think at least aesthetically, we see eye to eye. I agreed to do it. It came at the right time for me, so I could take the time to do it. And so then immediately we went about breaking down the script into location and mood and the character's journey and how we wanted certain colors or certain environments to look and feel at certain points in the story. And so you started with big ideas and what blue sky, like if we had all the resources in the world and we didn't have any limitations, how would we want this film to be look? And so you start there, and then as we got to the locations and got to Springfield, Massachusetts, and saw what that offered, we started to narrow in on exactly what the look of the film would be. And then you start to realize what the actors are going to do. And so it changes maybe how you're going to compose things or what kind of are you going to be more on steady cam, are you going to be more on dolly, or that kind of stuff can be dictated by the performance style. For me, I chose the Alexa 35 to shoot Barron's Cove with, and I've always been a big Alexa fan, and I just like the way that it renders color. But this camera was new at the time, and it was a great improvement in terms of how little light you could use because it could shoot at really high ISOs numbers. And so I thought this will be good because I won't have time to light whole city blocks for some of our night exteriors. So I'll have to use existing light. And so I need a camera that can handle that. And so that kind of dictated some of my choices as well.
How much time do you get at the locations? Do you get time to like just kind of walk around with a camera or viewfinder and just take test footage or anything like that? Or is it just we get there on the day and we got to figure it out right then?
No, getting there on the day, we would never have made any of our days. We went there a lot. Evan and I we'd go on an initial scout to see if we'd liked it. And then we would go back and take photos of just with some production assistants standing in for the actors. It's like, we want this scene to happen here. And This is maybe how the blocking might work. And so we went back several times. And then I would go on my own and just look around and see what I could figure out. We were at an old school, and I wanted to figure out how if I could replace all the fluorescents with movie fluorescents, basically, that are brighter and have their color controlled. And so I needed some time just on my own with nobody there to figure that out. And then you go back with your key crew people, my gaffer and my key grip, and get their ideas. And so it's you're 4 or 5 times you're visiting a certain location to just figure out how to shoot it.
Yeah. I also see you've worked on the Mandalorian, and I know that's basically like a giant LED screen that they act in front of. What's that like? Do I know the LED screens in the back, and you probably got a camera that goes, the background moves in contrast, so you got the correct parallax.
Yeah.
But how much do you have control over what's in the background, or do you just work the camera? How does that whole process work?
In that case, with that show, I was very involved in designing the lighting in the 3D environments, and the because essentially you have a built set that lines up with the 3D environments on the screen. So they've got to be seamless. And so whatever lighting you want has got to work all the way from the foreground all the way to the 3D background, the CG background, basically. So I was very involved with the animators who were constructing those environments. So I was doing the lighting in Unreal Engine, and then they would generate from my ideas. They would generate the environments, and so it was a constant back and forth. So I was very involved in creating everything. And again, that's another show where it's all preparation. In order for it to work, I've got to understand everything that's going on in front of the camera. Normally, in a more traditional effects movie, you're putting up a blue screen or a green screen, you don't really know what the environment's going to be. You're guessing at kind of the lighting, and but in with when you're using the LED screens, you know exactly what you're getting into, and you've had some input. It's a fun way to do it.
Yeah. So what are some of the pros and cons of working on that? Also, you've worked on like Wonder Woman, Fantastic Four, a bunch of big movies, and then a smaller movie like Barron's Cove. What's some pros and cons of working on a smaller movie as opposed to a larger movie?
The pros are that there's not as much pressure, and it's you can try things out. You can be a little more experimental. It's in Barron's Cove case, it's a movie about people and situations, so it's really performance based and telling the story as best you can visually. So you're just using film language and film grammar to tell a story, which is exciting and liberating, as opposed to these bigger productions, which are so heavy with logistics and melding in with effects that and stunts and things like that. So you can get back to basics. And that's what I really liked about working on Barron's Cove. It was just really me and my crew, and then working tightly with Evan, as opposed to interfacing with all these different departments that are so deep with people and decisions and things like that. The cons are you just don't have the resources, you don't have the money, you don't have the time, but it forces you to be more inventive. A lot of the things that I learned on big movies, I bring with me into small movies. And I think that both kinds of budget ranges inform the other. Yeah, I like going back and forth in that way.
Yeah. And Barron's Cove will be in theaters and VOD June 6th. Just one last thing. I want to get a movie recommendation from you. Movie maybe that's personal to you, or a movie that's this is really good. No one ever talks about it.
Just in general, right now, I just saw Friendship, which I thought was great. And I think more people should be out there because it's darkly funny, really weird, and it's really well conceived and acted. And it's I saw it on opening weekend, and the theater actually was packed, and people were laughing from the opening frame. And it felt going to the movies before pre-pandemic, where people were just out on a Friday night enjoying something where there wasn't a lot of hype. And it's not only very darkly funny and strange, but it's also very insightful about kind of the current state of male friendship. So I think it's worth a watch.
Nice. Matthew, thanks for joining me. And yeah, I really enjoyed Barron's Cove. Review will be out tomorrow. I think you'll be pleased with it. But thanks for
Excellent.
joining me.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.